Hare Krishna, my dear devotees, welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the Haven, which is located in Hythe, Kent, southeast England, just a stone's throw from the English Channel. We're here with Abhay Das Brahmachari and Radharaman Prabhu, our landlord and Prince of Hythe. We're here because the goal of life is to please Krishna. The goal of whatever we're doing is to please Krishna. And in order to do that, you have to know Krishna. You have to know what he likes, you have to know what he doesn't like, you have to know what pleases him, what doesn't please him. And you find out by listening to him speak himself about what he likes and doesn't like. It's embodied in the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this is the purpose of our daily readings, to please Krishna. He likes the fact that we like to hear about him, but he likes it even more when we like to do what he suggests that we do. So this is the first step, to hear about Krishna, to hear from Krishna, and to hear about Krishna, and the pure devotees of Krishna. So we can learn how to think, how to feel, how to will, how to act in a way that's pleasing to Krishna, most pleasing to Krishna. So this is the way to please Krishna. To like to hear about him, and to like to share that knowledge with others. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Mahima Stotram, from Sri Krishna Lila Stava, which was written by Srila Sanatana Goswami not long after he heard for 2 straight months from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, learning all about Krishna. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdipi Yusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems, of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Purāṇa, Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Prabho, Kali Dvandoditaditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshakshadayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madhika Bando Matsangin, Madguro Man Mahadana, Man Nisdadaka Mad Bhagya, Mad Anandanamostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy. I bow down to you. Asadu sadhu dadayin, ati nichochatakada, hanamunchagadachin mam, premna ritkanta yokspura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we reach the second chapter of the fourth canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Dakṣa curses Lord Śiva. Starting with text 16. Dakṣa is speaking openly in an assembly at the beginning of his sacrifice. A huge, universal sacrifice for the whole universe. He says, on the request of Lord Brahma, I handed over my chaste daughter to him, although he is devoid of all cleanliness, and his heart is filled with nasty things. Purport. It is the duty of parents to hand over their daughters to suitable persons, just befitting their family tradition in cleanliness, gentle behavior, wealth, social position, and so on. Dakṣa was repentant that on the request of Brahma, who was his father, he had handed over his daughter to a person who, according to his calculation, was nasty. He was so angry that he did not acknowledge that the request was from his father. Instead, he referred to Brahma as Parameshti, the supreme teacher in the universe. Because of his temperament of gross anger, he was not even prepared to accept Brahma as his father. In other words, he accused even Brahma of being less intelligent because he had advised Dakṣa to hand over his beautiful daughter to such a nasty fellow. In anger, one forgets everything. And thus Dakṣa, in anger, not only accused the great Lord Śiva, but criticized his own father, Lord Brahma, for his not very astute advice that Dakṣa hand over his daughter to Lord Śiva. Text 17. The sage Maitreya continued, thus Dakṣa, seeing Lord Śiva sitting as if against him, washed his hands and mouth and cursed him in the following words. Text 18. The demigods are eligible to share in the oblations of sacrifice, but Lord Śiva, who is the lowest of all the demigods, should not have a share. Purport. Because of this curse, Śiva was deprived of his share in the oblations of Vedic sacrifices. It was due to the curse of Dakṣa. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments in this connection that Lord Śiva was saved from the calamity of taking part with other demigods who were all materialistic. Lord Śiva is the greatest devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it is not fitting for him to eat or sit with materialistic persons like the demigods. Thus, the curse of Dakṣa was indirectly a blessing, for Śiva would not have to eat or sit with other demigods who were too materialistic. There is a practical example set for us by Gorkashore Das Babaji Maharaj, who used to sit on the side of a latrine to chant Hare Krishna. Many materialistic persons used to come and bother him and disturb his daily routine of chanting. So to avoid their company, he used to sit by the side of a latrine where materialistic persons would not go because of the filth and the obnoxious smell. However, Gorkashore Das Babaji Maharaj was so great that he was accepted as the spiritual master of such a great personality as His Divine Grace, Om Vishnupad Śrīmad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. The conclusion is that Lord Shiva behaved in his own way to avoid materialistic persons who might disturb him in his prosecution of devotional service. Text 19. Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, in spite of the requests of all the members of the sacrificial assembly, Dakṣa, in great anger, cursed Lord Shiva and then left the assembly and went back to his home. Purport. Anger is so detrimental that even a great personality like Dakṣa, out of anger, left the arena where Brahma was presiding, and all the great sages and pious and saintly persons were assembled. All of them requested him not to leave, but infuriated, he left, thinking that the auspicious place was not fit for him. Puffed up by his exalted position, he thought that no one was greater than he in argument. It appears that all the members of the assembly, including Lord Brahma, requested him not to be angry and leave their company, but in spite of all these requests, he left. That is the effect of cruel anger. In Bhagavad Gita, therefore, it is advised that one who desires to make tangible advancement in spiritual consciousness must avoid three things: lust, anger, and the motive passion. Actually, we can see that lust, anger, and passion make a man crazy, even though he be as great as Dakṣa. The very name Dakṣa suggests that he was expert in all material activities. But still, because of his aversion towards such a saintly personality as Shiva, he was attacked by these three enemies: anger, lust, and passion. Lord Chaitanya therefore advised that one be very careful not to offend Vaishnavas. He compared offenses toward a Vaishnava to a mad elephant. As a mad elephant can do anything horrible, so when a person offends a Vaishnava, he can perform any abominable action. Text 20. Upon understanding that Lord Shiva had been cursed, Nandishvara, one of Lord Shiva's principal associates, became greatly angry. His eyes became red, and he prepared to curse Dakṣa and all the Brahmanas present there who had tolerated Daksha's cursing Shiva in harsh words. Purport. There is a long-standing dissension among some of the neophyte Vaishnavas and Shaivites. They are always at loggerheads. When Dakṣa cursed Lord Shiva in harsh words, some of the Brahmanas present might have enjoyed it, because some Brahmanas do not very much admire Lord Shiva. This is due to their ignorance of Lord Shiva's position. Nandishvara was affected by the cursing, but he did not follow the example of Lord Shiva, who was also present there. Although Lord Shiva could have cursed Dakṣa in a similar way, he was silent and tolerant. But Nandishvara, his follower, was not tolerant. Of course, as a follower, it was right for him not to tolerate an insult to his master, but he should not have cursed the Brahmanas who were present. The entire issue was so complicated that those who were not strong enough forgot their positions, and thus cursing and counter-cursing went on in that great assembly. In other words, the material field is so unsteady that even personalities like Nandishwar, Dakṣa, and many of the Brahmanas present were infected by the atmosphere of anger. How relevant is that? Text 21. Anyone who has accepted Dakṣa as the most important personality and neglected Lord Śiva because of envy is less intelligent, and because of visualizing in duality will be bereft of transcendental knowledge. Purport. The first curse by Nandishwara was that anyone supporting Dakṣa was foolishly identifying himself with the body, and therefore, because Dakṣa had no transcendental knowledge, supporting him would deprive one of transcendental knowledge. Dakṣa, Nandishwar said, identified himself with the body like other materialistic persons and was trying to derive all kinds of facilities in relationship with the body. He had excessive attachment for the body and in relation to the body for wife, children, home, and other things which are different from the soul. Therefore, Nandishwar's curse was that anyone who supported Dakṣa would be bereft of transcendental knowledge of the soul, and thus also be deprived of knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 22. Pretentiously religious householder life, in which one is attracted to material happiness, and thus also attracted to the superficial explanation of the Vedas, robs one of all intelligence and attaches one to fruitive activities as all in all. Purport. Persons who identify with bodily existence are attached to the fruitive activities described in the Vedic literature. For example, in the Vedas, it is said that one who observes the Chaturmasya vow will attain eternal happiness in the heavenly kingdom. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that this flowery language of the Vedas mostly attracts persons who identify with the body. To them, such happiness as that of the heavenly kingdom is everything. They do not know that beyond that is the spiritual kingdom, or kingdom of God, and they have no knowledge that one can go there. Thus they are bereft of transcendental knowledge. Such persons are very careful in observing the rules and regulations of household life in order to be promoted in the next life to the moon or other heavenly planets. It is stated here that such persons are attached to gramya sukha, which means material happiness, without knowledge of eternal, blissful spiritual life. Text 23. Dakṣa has accepted the body as all in all. Therefore, since he has forgotten the Vishnu Pada, or Vishnu Gati, and is attached to sex life only, within a short time he will have the face of a goat. Text 24. Those who have become as dull as matter by cultivating materialistic education and intelligence are nascently involved in fruitive activities. Such men have purposely insulted Lord Śiva. May they continue in the cycle of repeated birth and death. Purport. The three curses mentioned above are sufficient to make one as dull as stone, void of spiritual knowledge, and preoccupied with materialistic education, which is nations. After uttering these curses, Nandishwar then cursed the Brahmanas to continue in the cycle of birth and death because of their supporting Dakṣa and blaspheming Lord Śiva. Text 25. May those who are envious of Lord Shiva, being attracted by the flowery language of the enchanting Vedic promises, and to have thus become dull, always remain attached to fruitive activities. It's Nandishwara, potent. Purport. The Vedic promises of elevation to higher planets for a better standard of materialistic life are compared to flowery language, because in a flower there is certainly an aroma, but that aroma does not last for a very long time. In a flower there is honey, but that honey is not eternal. 26. These brahmanas take to education, austerity, and vows only for the purpose of maintaining the body. They shall be devoid of discrimination between what to eat and what not to eat. They will acquire money, begging from door to door, simply for the satisfaction of the body. Purport. The third curse inflicted by Nandishwara on the brahmanas who supported Dakṣa is completely functioning in the age of Kali. The so-called brahmanas are no longer interested in understanding the nature of the Supreme Brahman, although a brahmana means one who has attained knowledge about Brahman. In the Vedanta Sutra also, it is stated, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. This human form of life is meant for realization of the Supreme Brahman, the Absolute Truth. Or in other words, human life is meant for one's elevation to the post of a Brahmana. Unfortunately, the modern Brahmanas, or so-called Brahmanas, who come in originally Brahminical families, have left their own occupational duties, but they do not allow others to occupy the posts of Brahmanas. The qualifications for Brahmanas are described in the scriptures, in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and all other Vedic literatures. Brahmana is not a hereditary title or position. If someone is from a non-Brahmana family, for example, one born in a family of Shudras, tries to become a Brahmana by being properly qualified under the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, these so-called Brahmanas will object. Such Brahmanas, having been cursed by Nandishwara, were actually in a position where they have no discrimination between eatables and non-eatables, and simply live to maintain the perishable material body and its family. Such fallen conditioned souls are not worthy to be called Brahmanas. But in Kali Yuga, they claim to be Brahmanas. And if a person actually tries to attain the Brahminical qualifications, they try to hinder his progress. This is the situation in the present age. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu condemned this principle very strongly. During his conversation with Ramananda Roy, he said that regardless of whether a person is born in a Brahmana family or Shudra family, regardless of whether he is a householder or a sannyasi, if he knows the science of Krishna, he must be a spiritual master. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had many so-called Shudra disciples like Haridas Thakur and Ramananda Roy. Even the Goswamis, who were principal students of Lord Chaitanya, were also ostracized from Brahmana society. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by his grace, made them first-class Vaishnavas. Text 27. When all the hereditary Brahmanas were thus cursed by Nandishwara, the sage Bhrigu, as a reaction, condemned the followers of Lord Shiva with this very strong Brahminical curse. Purport. The word Duratyaya is particularly used in reference to Brahmadanda, or curse by a Brahmana. A curse by a Brahmana is very strong, therefore it is called Duratyaya, or insurmountable. As the Lord states in Bhagavad Gita, the stringent laws of nature are insurmountable. Similarly, if a curse is uttered by a Brahmana, that curse is also insurmountable. But Bhagavad Gita also says that the curses or benedictions of the material world are, after all, material creations. The Chaitanya Charitamrita confirms that that which is accepted in this material world to be a benediction and that which is taken to be a curse are both on the same platform, because they are material. To get out of this material contamination, one should take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as recommended in Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Mameva ye prapadyante mayametang tarantite. The best path is to transcend all material curses and benedictions and take shelter of the Supreme Lord Krishna and remain in a transcendental position. Persons who have taken shelter of Krishna are always peaceful. They are never cursed by anyone, nor do they attempt to curse anyone. That is a transcendental position. Text 28. One who takes a vow to satisfy Lord Śiva, or who follows such principles, will certainly become an atheist and be diverted from transcendental scriptural injunctions. Purport. It is sometimes seen that devotees of Lord Śiva imitate the characteristics of Lord Śiva. For example, Lord Śiva drank an ocean of poison, so some of the followers of Lord Śiva imitate him and try to take intoxicants like ganja, marijuana. Here the curse is that if someone follows such principles, he must become an infidel and turn against the principles of Vedic regulation. It is said that such devotees of Lord Śiva will be such chastra paripantina, which means opposed to the conclusion of Shastra, or scripture. Oh, this is so good. This is confirmed in the Padma Purāṇa also. Lord Śiva was ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to preach the impersonal or Mayavad philosophy for a particular purpose, just as Lord Buddha preached the philosophy of voidness for particular purposes mentioned in the Shastra. Sometimes it is necessary to preach a philosophical doctrine which is against the Vedic conclusion. In the Padma Purāṇa, it is stated that Lord Śiva said to Parvati that in the Kali Yuga, in the body of a Brahmana, he would preach Mayavad philosophy. Thus it is generally found that the worshippers of Lord Śiva are Mayavadi followers. Lord Śiva himself says, Mayavadam ashat shastram, asat shastra, ashat shastra, as explained here, means the doctrine of Mayavad impersonalism, or becoming one with the Supreme. Bhrigu cursed that persons who worshipped Lord Śiva would become followers of this Mayavad Asat Shastra, which attempts to establish that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is impersonal. Besides that, among the worshippers of Lord Śiva, there is a section who live a devilish life. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and Narada Pancharatra are authorized scriptures that are considered Sat Shastra, or scriptures which lead one to the path of God realization. Asat Shastras are just the opposite. Text 29. Those who vow to worship Lord Shiva are so foolish that they imitate him by keeping long hair on their heads. When initiated into worship of Lord Shiva, they prefer to live on wine, flesh, and other such things. Purport. Indulging in wine and meat, keeping long hair on one's head, not bathing daily, and smoking ganja, marijuana, are some of the habits which are accepted by foolish creatures who do not have regulated lives. By such behavior, one becomes devoid of transcendental knowledge. In the initiation into the Shiva mantra, there are mudrikashtaka, in which it is sometimes recommended that one make his sitting place on the vagina and thus desire nirvana, or dissolution of existence. In that process of worship, wine is needed, or sometimes, in place of wine, palm tree juice, which is converted into an intoxicant. This is also offered according to Shiva Agama, a scripture on the method of worshipping Lord Shiva. Text 30. Bhrigu continued, "Since you blaspheme the Vedas and the Brahmanas, who were followers of the Vedic principles, it is understood that you have already taken shelter of the doctrine of atheism." Purport. Bhrigu Muni, in cursing Nandishwar, said that not only would they be degraded as atheists because of this curse, but they had already fallen to the standard of atheism because they had blasphemed the Vedas, which are the source of human civilization. Human civilization is based on the qualitative divisions of the social order, namely the intelligent class, the martial class, the productive class, and the laborer class. The Vedas provide the right direction for advancing in spiritual cultivation and economic development, and regulating the principle of sense gratification, so that ultimately one may be liberated from material contamination, so that ultimately one may be liberated from material contamination to his real state of spiritual identification, aham brahmasmi. As long as one is in the contamination of material existence, one changes bodies from the aquatics up to the position of Brahma. But the human form of life is the highest perfectional life in the material world. The Vedas give directions by which to elevate oneself in the next life. The Vedas are the mother for such instructions, and the Brahmanas, or persons who are in knowledge of the Vedas, are the father. Thus, if one blasphemes the Vedas and Brahmanas, naturally one goes down to the status of atheism. The exact word used in Sanskrit is Nastika, which refers to one who does not believe in the Vedas, but manufactures some concocted system of religion. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that the followers of the Buddhist system of religion are Nastikas. In order to establish his doctrine of non-violence, Lord Buddha flatly refused to believe in the Vedas, and thus, later on, Shankaracharya stopped this system of religion in India and forced it to go outside India. Here it is stated, Brahmacha Brahmanan. Brahma means the Vedas. Aham Brahmasmi means I am in full knowledge. The Vedic assertion is that one should think that he is Brahman. I'll read that again. The Vedic assertion is that one should think that he is Brahman, for actually he is Brahman. If Brahma, or the Vedic spiritual science, is condemned, and the masters of the spiritual science, the Brahmanas, are condemned, then where does human civilization stand? Bhrigu said, "It is not due to my cursing that you shall become atheists. You are already situated in the principles of atheism. Therefore, you are condemned." And that brings us almost to 8 o'clock. So we're going to stop here, and we'll hear more about this wonderful, enlightening philosophy of how the eventual fall of the Brahmanan class came into existence by the offense of Dakṣa, who was a ritualistic Brahmin, one of the first, and in his anger with Lord Śiva, and then the retaliation and anger of the followers of Lord Śiva. This is the source, and this was in the beginning of the universe. So let us be extremely careful that we don't make decisions based on anger. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll stop here and start again tomorrow night on text 31. Hare Krishna, and we're waiting in anticipation of the reflections of the assembled sages. Hare Krishna. Take it away. Radharaman has something to say about that.
Maharaj, I was just wondering if you could comment on this towards the end of the purport to text 20. So the entire issue was so complicated that those who were not strong enough forgot their positions, and thus the cursing and counter-cursing went on in that great assembly. In other words, the material field is so unsteady that even persons like Nandishvara, Dakṣa, many of the Brahmins present were infected by the atmosphere of anger. I just thought it was very fascinating. I was wondering if you could comment, Maharaj, on this point about...
You're actually perfectly capable of commenting on this, because you've got all kinds of realizations about it.
I was hoping you would, Maharaj, at this point, especially about those who were not strong enough, forgot their positions.
Well, in order to be strong enough to maintain one's faith in the Vedas, and at the same time learn the art of transcending the Vedas through devotional service, not through fighting with others. One gets that strength from hearing from the right source in a proper mentality for a long time. This, if you remember, we've heard this just from Kapila Dev not long ago in the 3rd canto. So, this happened in the beginning of the creation. So we've heard that in Satya Yuga, things are so good that everyone is in goodness, and there is none of this. But this is not just Satya Yuga. This is the beginning of the whole creation, the beginning of the personality of Lord Brahma. Some of these personalities remain through the whole duration of the creation, because every night when Brahma goes to sleep, the 3 worlds are destroyed, but only up to Maharloka. And even Maharloka, it doesn't destroy it, but Maharloka becomes so hot that they move to Janaloka temporarily until it's over. So all the persons from then, from there upward, they're around for the whole duration of the creation. That's hundreds of trillions of years. So it's here where the seeds of this fighting between the Vaishnavas and the Shaivites, or the Brahmanas and the Shaivites, is the root of it. So we have to be very careful to hear these scriptures and then apply the principles that are being taught in the scriptures. Like the Bhagavatam, we chant every day that every syllable of the Bhagavatam is full of Krishna prema. And yet here we're hearing about people counter-cursing each other like anything and causing future chaos, But it's because it's teaching us what not to do. So we have to learn what to do and what not to do from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, from Shukadev Goswami, disciple and son of Vyasadeva, who's a literary incarnation of God. And then we will learn just how contaminating anger is. And then when we look at the world, or look at ourselves especially, in our dealings with others, even within our movement now, there's so much anger and fighting and conflict and opposition going on. Just the opposite of what Srila Prabhupada teaches us to do. He said the test of our love for him will be how well we cooperate together to keep his institution together. So anything, whatever it is, that is threatening to split it should be rejected. And we should hear and give our statements and our arguments based on Shastra, not on anger. And that's what's happening here in the Dakṣa Yajna with Śiva and his followers, and Dakṣa and his followers. Hare Krishna. And if we don't do that, we'll be torn asunder. And ISKCON will manifest itself. Lord Chaitanya's will manifest itself in another way. But that's not the prediction of Prabhupada, so that won't happen. It's just a matter of who's going to follow Prabhupada and who's not. Not based on some political, socially acceptable principle, but based on Shastra. Hare Krishna. Is that okay?
First is from Rati Manjari.
Yes, Rati Manjari.
Jai Guru Maharaj, please teach us all about Krishna.
Well, I pray to all of the Vaishnavas that I can become transparent to Srila Prabhupada. Krishna is very far away from me. Prabhupada is not as far away from me. So please let me follow his example. Hare Krishna.
From Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
Yes, Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj, and all assembled sages, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Thank you, dear Maharaj, for your daily reading service. Jai Ho.
Jai Ho.
Sudevi Dasi says, Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Sudevi Dasi, Hare Krishna to you too.
And from Bhaktin Maxine.
Yes, Bhaktin Maxine.
Hare Krishna, dearest Maharaj.
Hare Krishna to you too.
This is from Bhaktin Nikki.
Yes, Bhaktin Nikki.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for the sweet reading tonight. My question is, Lord Buddha is an incarnation of Krishna.
but the conclusion of his philosophy is impersonalism and monism. Why is this the case?
Well, you can read about this in the 3rd chapter of the 1st canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. There is a list of the incarnations of Krishna, the most prominent ones, and Buddha is included. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains why it is that Buddha taught this philosophy. But another angle is, as we heard in our reading tonight, already we heard it. It's a matter of hearing and meditating on it and thinking about it. We heard that Lord Buddha came and preached a sub-religious principle. That means a principle that leads to religion, but is not exactly religion. And that is nonviolence. Because in that time, the Brahmanas were contaminated, partly by the curse of Nandishwar, actually, as we just learned tonight. And they were misusing their authority to turn the temples into money exchanges, places, and slaughterhouses. This was actually going on. So the only way that could be stopped was to minimize or cut the authority, the faith in the authority of the Vedas of the people. So that's what Buddha did. He came and he preached against the authority of the Vedas, but taught nonviolence in order to stop the killing of innocent animals on the plea of Vedic sacrifices. That's one half of the story. Hare Krishna. So he's an incarnation of Krishna, and he came and brought into question the authority of the Vedas. Now, in the Gita it says, Vedaischa sarvam ahamiva vedya, that the Vedas, the purpose of the Vedas is to see Krishna, to find Krishna. So we don't want to reject the Vedas, but we want to follow the Vedas in a way that leads us to Krishna. And Krishna cannot tolerate the innocent killing of innocent animals. But that was a temporary measure to move the Buddhist religion out of India. And then later, Lord Śiva was instructed by Krishna to come again as Lord Śiva, as Shankaracharya to preach Mayavad philosophy, which reawakened the faith in the Vedas of the people of India, but at the same time made it similar to the Buddhist religion because it came to an impersonal conclusion, and that's Mayavad. And then later on, of course, the Vaishnava Acharyas came. Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarka Swami, and Vishnu Swami. And then finally, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he brought the whole thing together. But to this day, there are still devotees of Shiva and Vaishnavas, Vishnu, who fight due to this curse that we're just hearing about. So anyway, there were quite some digressions in that explanation. I hope I didn't confuse you, but that's the main reason, that Buddha came to temporarily stop the killing of animals in the name of Vedic sacrifices, which was done normally on a day-to-day basis in the temples. And he stopped it. So we have to see history of why things happen and why the Lord does what He does in context of longer history. Paritrayana sadhanam vinashaya chaduskritam. The Lord comes age after age and adjusts the time-worn culture of the material world. And these are the ways He does it. Hare Krishna.
Nikki says, that's fascinating. Thank you for your explanation.
Hare Krishna.
And from Sarvagya,
Yes, Sarvagya.
Keshavadvita Buddha Sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hare.
Yes.
All glories to Lord Sri Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes. Thank you.
And from Anandamurti.
Yes, Anandamurti.
Dear Guru Maharaj and all assembled devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for today's reading of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Today I heard how the material misconception of I am a body makes a person entangled with the material modes and repeated birth and death. Yes, Maharaj, today I am learning how anger destroys all the good things which have been given to us as the mercy of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Vaishnava aparad is very dangerous for us.
Yes, thank you. That's the essence of the reading tonight. Thank you very much for coming to the point so clearly. Thank you. So in Bhagavad Gita, it's clearly stated in chapter 16, the three gates leading to hellish consciousness, which means are anger, lust, anger, and greed. And he says, Krishna says, all sane men should give these up because they lead to the degradation of the soul. And what we heard tonight was what that degradation actually means practically. Infighting, counter-cursing, cursing, counter-cursing, ruins the atmosphere completely. So we should be at least individually instruments in spreading Krishna consciousness instead of material consciousness in the name of Krishna consciousness. Because Krishna consciousness is not, it's without material anger. There may be anger when there is a need to defeat a demoniac force. Hanuman jumped over the ocean to Lanka and burned it to the ground because he was so angry with Ravana. That is the proper use of anger. But if we use the anger to curse and counter-curse with each other as Vaishnavas, then we cause the destruction. Prabhupada told us the movement cannot be destroyed from outside. From inside it can be severely damaged. Hare Krishna. I thank you all for your reflections. As usual, they were profound, and this chapter has so many applications to what is going on today, even in the world and even in our movement. Please go back over this chapter again and again. Please learn the lessons and learn how to not offend Vaishnavas. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. See you tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same topic. And we'll see how Dakṣa becomes corrected and the whole situation becomes better. Hare Krishna. By proper application of spiritual consciousness. Hare Krishna.